In the near future, irreversible changes in the planet's climate result in the deaths of millions of people. To deal with this problem, humanity has created a unique system of satellites that can influence the climate by launching small drones into the atmosphere, carrying substances capable of creating rain, neutralizing storms, and combating extreme heat. However, people had no idea that in the wrong hands, this invention would become a formidable weapon capable of destroying entire countries. The story begins in Washington. Jake Lawson, the creator of the satellite system that was named Dutch Boy, arrives for a hearing in the U.S. Senate. Once the security guard finds out who he is, he expresses his deep admiration for Jake's work.
Everybody down here owes you, Jake Lawson.
Since Jake forgot his tie in a hurry, the kind man gave him his own. At the hearing, Jake argues with the close-minded senators, who believe that Jake had overstepped his authority in managing the satellite system by dispersing typhoons without their permission. He also approved the transfer of the system to United Nations control, despite the desire of the United States political elites to keep Dutch Boy exclusively under their own control. Jake attempts to explain his actions as a concern for the world's fate, but the senators declare that their own people will be in charge of the station from now on. This enrages Jake.
People like you need people like me, so you can take credit for everything we accomplish.
The altercation ends with Jake being forcibly removed from the room. Jake's brother Max was appointed the head of the Dutch Boy station. He reluctantly informs his brother that due to the scandal at the hearing, he is under severe political pressure and must fire Jake.
Sorry.
3 years later, in the Registan Desert in Afghanistan, a group of United Nations soldiers advances towards a local village. They suddenly stop. To their astonishment, they discover that the village is completely covered in snow, despite being exposed to the burning desert sun. Inside the village, soldiers discover local residents covered in ice. Apparently, they were instantly frozen during the anomalous weather event. These alarming events are soon discussed at a briefing in Washington. U.S. Secretary of State Leonard Deckham advises President Andrew Palmer to deny that Dutch Boy is responsible for the deadly phenomenon as elections are on the way. This argument enrages Max.
But we cost those people their lives.
He asks the president to do everything possible to prevent similar incidents in the future. Being a man of conscience, the president listens to Max's advice and orders the investigation of the incident. At the International Space Station, which now serves as the center of the Dutch Boy system, the satellite responsible for Afghanistan is placed inside the station using a special robotic arm. At the same time, a new satellite is launched to replace it. One of the engineers, Mahmoud, copies the satellite data to a futuristic device called a holoframe. He places it inside a folder and goes to another part of the station. Mahmoud hides the folder in the locker room. While walking through the station, Mahmoud becomes trapped when both doors in one of the corridors suddenly close on him. A small explosion follows, causing decompression that throws the poor man into space. Max arrives in a small Florida community to find Jake and talks with his daughter Hannah, who enjoys making solar panels just like her father. As expected, Jake is still angry at Max for firing him earlier.
I got fired by my own brother, then I lost my family.
Nevertheless, he agrees to help him solve the Dutch Boy problem, feeling responsible for his creation. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, Cheng Long, a climate control engineer working for the Pacific Region Climate Control Agency, goes to the supermarket to buy groceries. Extreme heat outside compels a stray cat to jump into the fridge. He leaves the store and accidentally drops some eggs on the road. To his surprise, he discovers that the road is so hot that it immediately starts frying the eggs. The road cracks, revealing a red-hot gas line. Chung quickly gets into his car and drives away in a panic. He watches a huge explosion erupt behind him. Multiple gas explosions have turned the entire neighborhood into a death trap. Surrounded by fire, Chung continues driving and tries to stay away from the explosions while skyscrapers collapse around him. Miraculously surviving the hellish anomaly, Chung stops on a bridge along with people in other cars. Horrified by what just happened, Chung gets out of the car and looks at the devastated city. Jake arrives at the Kennedy Space Center, where shuttles regularly depart for the International Space Station. He is placed on the shuttle and launched into space. Once his ship reaches orbit, Jake enjoys the weightlessness and looks out the window at the gigantic satellite system that extends around the entire planet. The shuttle soon lands inside the station. Jake is happy to be back at the station. Ute Fassbender, the station's chief scientist, greets Jake at the entrance. Being an original creator, he immediately criticizes the state of the station's systems.
All these things have to be watched, cared for.
Ute introduces her team, consisting of engineer Annie Adisa, system specialist Duncan Taylor, technician Al Hernandez, and security officer Ray Doucet.
The last thing we need is some Washington stooge to come and supervise us, do we, lads?
Together, they must investigate the incidents in Afghanistan and Hong Kong. Max's girlfriend, Sarah Wilson, works as a Secret Service agent protecting the President of the United States. The U.S. government claims that the Hong Kong explosions were caused by a faulty gas pipeline. Chung calls Max and informs him that they're lying, as he personally observed abnormally high temperatures preceding the gas pipeline explosion. Furthermore, his access to satellite data has been blocked. Max also lost access. He begins to suspect that there is a conspiracy within the U.S. government. After their conversation, Chung's power goes out. He is horrified to discover armed men approaching his office. Chung hides behind the door while the attackers thoroughly search his office, trying to determine what exactly Chung learned about the conspiracy. They take his laptop and leave. Max asks his colleague Dana to help him get access to satellite data. She confirms Max's suspicions that someone deliberately restricted his access.
Someone wanted to block your access without you knowing that it was intentional.
Max soon reports this information to Jake. Jake is determined to get to the bottom of this. A satellite responsible for monitoring Hong Kong's climate is placed inside the station using a robotic arm. A catastrophic malfunction causes the arm to spin the enormous satellite around the room, nearly crushing Ute and other crew members. The hard drives inside the satellite were destroyed by the impact. However, there is some progress regarding the incident with the engineer who died at the station. One of the wall panels miraculously survived the explosion and is now lodged on the station's surface. Jake and Ute get into spacesuits, intending to retrieve the hard drive inside the panel. They slowly move toward the panel and extract it from behind the station's cables. On their way back, Jake's suit suddenly begins accelerating on its own. Unable to control his backpack, which creates jet propulsion, Jake crashes into the station's surface multiple times. After a powerful impact with the solar panels, Jake's malfunctioning backpack is torn from his spacesuit. However, Jake is still flying by inertia. Only by a miracle he manages to grab the edge of the station at the very last moment. Returning to the station, Jake reveals to Ute that he managed to obtain the hard drive from inside the panel after all. He suspects that there is a traitor among the crew who tried to kill him, so he conceals the drive's existence from them.
I know my crew. I trust them.
You think you know them?
After examining the data on the drive, Jake and Ute discovered that the panels were programmed to explode, meaning someone killed Mahmoud. In Washington, Max and Sarah are waiting for Chung. They spot him in the crowd and approach him. Suddenly, someone pushes Chung into the road, and he's immediately hit by a car. Sarah tries to pursue the attackers, but she is reluctant to shoot in a crowded place, so they manage to escape. Before he dies, Chung manages to say to Max,
Zeus.
Jake calls Max. Suspecting that the conspirators are listening to the conversation, he tells a fictional story about how their father took them fishing as children. Since they never went fishing with their father, Max realizes that Jake hid a message within the monologue. With Dana's help, he retrieves the real message, warning Max of a conspiracy.
Proof of sabotage of government. Trust no one.
Max asks Dana to find data on Project Zeus. She can't open the files, explaining to Max that they can only be opened in the White House, so the two want to involve Sarah in their investigation. Sarah comes home after work. The sound of breaking glass startles her. She pulls out her gun and heads into the room. It turned out to be Dana, who had accidentally broken a glass.
Who is this girl in our house?
I can explain everything.
Max asks Sarah to hack the White House server and retrieve the files he needs. She resists the idea at first, but reluctantly agrees when Max tells her everything that happened. Jake and Ute watch the security footage. They deduce that Mahmoud realized what happened in Afghanistan, so he copied the data from the satellite and tried to hide it, but someone eliminated him before he could expose the conspiracy. After tracking Mahmoud to the locker where he hid the holoframe, they attempt to open his locker when Doucet suddenly points his gun at them and asks what they're doing. Jake and Ute reluctantly tell him that they believe someone killed Mahmoud and tried to kill Jake. Doucet explains that he personally witnessed Mahmoud place the folder in the drawer. They retrieve the holoframe. While examining the data on the device, they find out that a virus has been implanted into the satellite's systems. Meanwhile, Max, Dana, and Sarah have gained access to the Project Zeus files. Zeus involves simulations of all kinds of natural disasters that, when put together, are designed to create a geostorm, a catastrophe of unprecedented proportions.
Someone has weaponized Dutch Boy.
Max informs Jake of what's happening. Jake is furious that his life's work has been weaponized.
So what do people do with it? Turn it into a gun.
Jake wants to shut down Dutch Boy to reboot the system and destroy the virus. But the only one who can do this is the president, who has the override code. Not knowing whether they can trust the president, Max boards a plane with the president and Decom, intending to steal the override code. Meanwhile, at the station, Jake's team starts losing control over the satellites. When the Tokyo satellite goes down, the city is bombarded with hail. A hailstorm results in many people being seriously injured. But this is just the beginning, because soon huge chunks of ice begin falling on the city, destroying entire buildings. Immediately after this, on the shore in Rio de Janeiro, people on the beach watch as a wave in the ocean freezes in a split second. The approaching frost instantly envelops the ocean, the beach, and then the people on the shore, killing them instantly. A wave of abnormal frost continues to terrorize the city. Planes freeze in midair and fall on the unfortunate people below. Jake comes up with a plan. He intends to launch a new satellite to replace the Rio de Janeiro satellite. The new satellite crashes into the old one, disabling it in the process. Despite their success, Jake and his colleagues are soon startled by an automated alarm, signaling that a geostorm will begin in an hour and a half. At the Democratic National Convention in Orlando, Florida, the president delivers a speech.
United, we can.
Using the Project Zeus database, Max enters Afghanistan, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Rio de Janeiro into the computer, and arrives at a single scenario. The next target will be Orlando, where they are currently located. Max asks Decom for help, telling him about Project Zeus. Max suspects the president is behind the geostorm. Decom promises to help him expose the conspiracy. Meanwhile, the station's crew loses control of all operations when the virus initiates a self-destruct sequence.
Station self-destruct sequence initiated.
Jake orders the staff to evacuate and goes to find Duncan. It turns out he was the one who implanted the virus into the satellite systems and has been working with the conspirators from the start.
You gone mad? Yeah, pretty much.
Jake orders him to abort the station's self-destruct sequence. Duncan pulls out a gun from under the table and aims it at Jake. He explains that he was paid a huge sum of money for the sabotage.
If you don't stop, there's not going to be a planet to spend it on.
We're going to keep all the best bits.
Enraged, Jake attacks Duncan. A fight ensues, during which Duncan accidentally shoots the window. Seeing this, Jake quickly flees the room and watches as decompression throws Duncan into outer space. In Orlando, Decom takes Max to the president, but it turns out that Decom was the real leader of the conspiracy. He tries to kill Max, but Max escapes into the hall where the president is still delivering his speech. Decom orders his henchmen not to let the president out of the building. Max informs Sarah of Decom's actions. They suspect that Decom wants to assassinate the president and the other candidates through the climate anomaly that is approaching Orlando. Left with no other choice, the two decide to kidnap the president, as he is the only one who can give the abort code to Dutch Boy. Max goes to get a car while Sarah informs other Secret Service agents about the shooter and raises the alarm by opening fire in the hall. Agents bring the president to Sarah. She attacks another agent and kidnaps the president.
You need to come with me.
Together, they get into a taxi, which Max brought to the exit. Decom's agents open fire. However, Sarah manages to escape from them. The Dutch Boy satellites continue to wreak havoc on the planet. In Mumbai, India, a satellite creates massive tornadoes that sweep through the city, destroying everything in their path. In Moscow, a satellite caused a heat wave, incinerating the Kremlin. Decom gives instructions to his henchman, Rico, ordering him to kill the president at any cost. While Max explains to the president what happened, Orlando is plunged into a massive thunderstorm, with lightning striking the city streets. The lightning strikes directly on the stadium where the president was giving a speech, destroying the stadium and the people inside. Evading lightning bolts that continue to devastate the city, the three drive under a bridge. Decom's mercenaries catch up with them, and Rico opens fire. A chase ensues. Above them, the bridge begins to crack from multiple lightning strikes. A construction crane falls onto the bridge, nearly killing Max, Sarah, and the president. Sarah makes a sharp turn and begins shooting at Rico and his partner. After killing the driver, she quickly escapes the mercenaries.
Barrier.
Rico ejects the driver and continues the chase, but Sarah outsmarts him and rams his car off the bridge. He dies in the explosion that follows. Meanwhile, the station continues to explode section by section. Jake and the station personnel flee to the evacuation shuttles. Since the restart can only be initiated manually, Jake heroically decides to remain on the station and wait for Max's abort code, despite his slim chances of survival. In Orlando, Decom orders his henchmen to fire a grenade launcher at the president's car.
Fire.
But there was nobody in the car. Sarah quickly neutralizes Decom and his henchmen. The police and FBI arrive and arrest Decom for treason. Before leaving, he tries to convince the president not to cancel the geostorm.
Tomorrow the sun will rise, all our enemies will be gone.
Max is furious at Decom's cruel justification of his attempt to exterminate millions of people. In the United Arab Emirates, a massive wave of water sweeps across the desert and approaches Dubai. People in skyscrapers observe the wall of water that obliterates everything in its path. The huge wave easily destroys the skyscrapers, engulfing the entire city. A helicopter delivers the president, Max, and Sarah to the Kennedy Space Center. Max and the president call Jake, after which the president enters the geostorm cancel code. Jake explains to Max that the code only cancels the geostorm. The self-destruct cannot be canceled. He asks Max to look after his daughter and apologizes for his past mistakes.
Can you forgive me?
Yeah, always.
When the code loads, Jake runs to enter it into the system, but a section of the station explodes right in front of him. Multiple explosions throughout the station shut off the artificial gravity. Jake's daughter Hannah and his ex-wife watch the news about the situation on the station, worried about Jake. A laser beam from one of the satellites continues to scorch Moscow. Whirlwinds torment Mumbai, and in flooded Dubai, even the most advanced skyscrapers begin to collapse. Cape Canaveral also suffers from a terrible storm that blows up one of the shuttles. With only minutes left before the global geostorm, Jake quickly navigates the station despite the lack of gravity. Jake gets into a spacesuit. He tries to enter the control room, but the computer refuses his code. Fortunately, Ute has also remained on the station. She opens the door, after which Jake hurries to enter the geostorm abort code. The satellites begin to shut down. Just seconds before disaster, all the satellites are disabled. Jake initiates a manual system reboot, which erases the virus and transfers control of the satellites to NASA. But Jake and Ute's celebratory mood quickly dissipates when the station finally collapses beneath their feet. They manage to cling to a relatively stable structure. Jake notices that one of the backup satellites has survived the explosions. He tells Ute that this is their only chance for salvation. They fly to the satellite, narrowly escaping the numerous explosions around them. Opening the satellite, they climb inside just before a large final explosion completes the station's self-destruction. To people on Earth, it appears that Jake and Ute did not survive. Suddenly, the Space Center operator notices flashes in the sky emanating from the backup satellite. This is the SOS signal Jake makes by briefly firing the satellite's engines. As the satellite descends toward the ground, a shuttle piloted by Hernandez approaches from behind. Jake and Ute are saved. The damaged cities all over the world are slowly recovering from the terrible cataclysms they have endured. Jake's shuttle lands. The president, Max, and Sarah greet Jake and Ute as heroes, paying tribute to their selfless act. 6 months later, Jake is back working as chief engineer on the Dutch Boy station, which is now run by an international committee that rebuilt it from scratch. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.